Hey friends, this is the Mrs. Wolfie from our half-acre homestead, and this week I was gifted with some frozen ground. Now, I got 4 packages of this deer meat, and it's deer hamburger. And I have 1 package left of my turkey, and several packages of my of the hamburger that I have put in the freezer. Now, we're getting a side of beef in a few months. So, and this is older meat. Well, not the stuff in the plastic, but the stuff in the red wrap is last year's meat, so I'm going to can it up. Now listen, everybody, you never, ever, ever can ground meat raw. You never raw pack ground meat. There's too many pieces for it to properly can. There's too many bits. It's too tightly packed to raw pack and can safely. So that's our turkey. Save your twist ties. This is canning it to save it. Now, I want to show you the difference between store-bought hamburger and wild venison. Look at the color difference, folks. Look at the difference in the color between store-bought hamburger and true red meat. Makes you wonder what they do to that beef, doesn't it? That's why I feel comfortable canning the store-bought hamburger and turkey with this, because it's going to come out beautiful anyway. Nice, rich, and red. I'm just going to kind of mash these all down into the pan. Some people, oh, that one's still slightly frozen. It'll have to come out a little bit more mashed later. And into a 320 degree oven, this goes to slow roast, mashing and stirring occasionally while it cooks. A couple hours. So here's our 9 lids. Now, I have 9 clean jars, washed, rinsed, and waiting. Now here's a tip for home canners. When I'm putting my lids in the bowl, I do 1 facing down, 1 facing up, all the way as I count them into the bowl. Why? That way they don't get stuck together when you're trying to get them out with your magnet. Now I'm just covering these with just boiled hot water. Here's our rings. I'm going to turn my canner on. Now as you can see, my gasket is sitting down there in the hot water. Why? Because every once in a while it likes to be boiled or heated in hot water to give it some of its flexibility back. Now here's something else. This got soaked in vinegar and cleaned with a brush. Also did this. I took vinegar and Scotch-Brite to it, as you can see. Why? Because sometimes rust will build up or minerals will build up, and then when your little popper goes on and it pops up, it doesn't want to pop back down naturally because it kind of gets stuck from the rust and minerals and crud. So clean with vinegar. Make sure this is clear. And clean this out with vinegar and a brush also, if you are on well water. Now here is our venison and ground beef and turkey just taken out of the oven. If you see red, it's not raw, trust me. This has been cooking for a couple of hours. It's just the meat underneath. Remember, this is venison. Oh, Gracie just came a-running when she smelled that, didn't you? Will you be able to lick the pan? Yes, you will. All right, so I've broke this all up. Make sure it's all broken up, folks. You can this with liquid if you wish. Some people can it with beef broth. Some people can it with beef broth. And if you do, then you need to debubble. Remember that. but we are dry canning this, which means we're not putting any fluid in at all. Let's get started. Oh, and I've given this a little bit of salt while it was cooking, so I'm not going to be salting it. And today, as always, I'm canning with 4 jars canning lids. Okay, so let's start. We've got our lids in hot water. We've got our clean rings. We have 9 jars washed and rinsed, and we have our little always wipe your rims and threads with a clean damp paper towel, or this is a little piece of flannel soaked in vinegar. Right, where's my spoon? Let's get working on this meat. Now you don't have to tamp it down because it will do that in the canner, and you will find that there is some juice in the bottom of this. And I'm going to try and keep some juice, all of the juice, in with each jar. We're going to fill it up to 1 inch from the top. Always, always, always wipe your rims with a clean damp paper towel or a little piece of rag soaked in vinegar. Put on a clean hot lid, a clean ring, and into the canner that goes. Now, if you want a full jar or a full pound in one of your jars, you go ahead and pack that right down. I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother because it's just Howard and I. So we're probably going to get about, 1/2 to 3/4 of a pound per jar. And of course our canner is filled with the recommended amount of water with about 1.5 ounces of white vinegar to keep my jars from clouding because I am on well water. You might wonder why I'm canning this meat. It's like I said, we're getting a side of beef. And I'm canning this up to save it because it's over a year old, or almost a year old. So we can it to save it. Nobody ever wants to see that. I just put this in the bottom of the pot, or in the bottom of the canner, and it went crack. So that is absolute garbage. What a friggin' waste. But that's okay. We'll just carry on. Is that good, Gracie? Is that good? Yum. Okay, I'm going to put the lid on here. And as soon as this begins to vent a steady stream of steam and this bobble is popped up, we're going to vent our canner for 10 minutes. Please don't skip venting the canner. Venting the canner pushes the air out so that when you put the weight on, it creates the right amount of vacuum and pressure. So don't skip steps. Okay, our canner bobble is up. It's been venting a steady stream of steam for the last 10 minutes. Now we're going to put our 10-pound weight on. As soon as this comes up to its first vigorous jiggle, I'm going to turn the canner down just a little bit, and then I'm going to process these pints for 75 minutes. Meat is 75 minutes for pints, 90 minutes for quarts. If you live 1,000 feet or more above sea level, please check the canner's manufacturer directions, because your weights and measures and canning times may change. And here comes our first vigorous jiggle. There we go. And our timer is now set for 1 hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit so that this stops naturally. Okay, now you see how that went back down? When this is clogged with rust or calcium or anything like that, it'll go up and it'll get stuck there and it will wreck the pressure of your canner. So always make sure you keep these things clean in between canning. All right, we've set our timer for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Okay, our timer has gone off. And we're going to shut off our canner. And we're going to let it cool down naturally. Letting it cool down naturally is part of the canning process. Do not jiggle the weight. Do not take the weight off and rapid cool your canner. Do not plunge it in cold water. And for God's sake, don't try and take the lid off. Let your canner cool naturally until it is comfortable to touch at the top or the sides with your bare hands. Alrighty, our bobble is down and there's no steam coming out. It's still hot, but you can open it now. It's safe to open, but please open it away from your face so you don't get a face full of steam. I hope no more jars broke. Venison, hamburger, and turkey. But it all looks good to me. It's really good for things like tacos and pizza and a quick spaghetti and a quick casserole. It's already cooked. This is the Mrs. Wolfe from our half-acre homestead saying, that's just good home economics. Can it to save it. Take care. God bless. Folks, if you're a home canner and you're not trying 4 Jars canning lids, you are missing out. These are heavier than any other disposable lid on the market. They are a US company, and if you order over $100, your shipping is free. Check in the description box below this video for a link to 4 Jars canning lids and use the coupon code HALFACRE, all one word in capital letters, for 10% off. Check them out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok for ideas and recipes. 4 Jars canning lids, you can't go wrong.